Welcome to the family office, planning for the people who matter most.
Speaking of,
it's good that we didn't call the end of our bet, because not to minimize what's going on, but I told you that this was going to happen.
You said it was going to fall apart in 2 weeks. You were right on that, by the way. You were right on it falling apart in 2 weeks.
And I'm
surprised.
Tragic,
I'm surprised,
man.
I'm surprised.
Tragic.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 17 of the soldiers killed so far in combat, and there's actually one missing around the Jordan border.
Jordan, from like over Saturday or Sunday or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So it breaks my heart to see how people's lives are being, just tossed around, because if you look on the Iranian side as well, I mean, there's a lot of men, women, and children that are civilians being killed, way more than 17. It's just never, war is always bad.
What do you think about with this situation? And I mean, we can go back and forth on it, and I understand that. I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised that, and I think Trump is surprised too, to a little bit degree, but I'm very surprised that Iran violated the MOU by attacking. I mean, because that attack was unprovoked. The violation of the MOU was from them hitting the ships Monday or Sunday or something, right? That's what the whole thing was. The commercial vessels, they struck 3 commercial vessels last Monday. I'm surprised that they, and maybe it is outliers, like people the extreme right radicals that don't agree, obviously, Len, with the change and are holding on. But I'm very surprised that they didn't contain that, given the fact that they postured and went to Pakistan, they did all this, the negotiations, all these things they see the writing on the wall. You see all these Middle Eastern countries are in mass rush now to bypass the strait completely. I'm very surprised that they did it that way. I'm very surprised. But on the other side of it, I'm like, well, that's just who they are. But I'm surprised that, given the amount of effort and energy that was put on everybody's side, and they met there and they signed, and the signing and the ceremony, I'm very surprised. I'm surprised. I'm actually, I don't know what else to say by that, Len. I'm surprised that they did it this way, because Trump's not going to flinch with that. I mean, that is plain and simple.
Yeah. I wish I could say I was surprised, but
you're surprised you're not surprised they violated it, or you're surprised they violated it?
No, I'm not surprised at all.
But given everything, why would they, Len? I mean, they got a deal. They're in negotiations. Peace is there. You have the ability to exit this once and for all, and you're going to go and violate it without any. Israel wasn't attacking. There was no provocation that they claimed. They're just, hey, we just want to do this because we want to do this now. I mean, well, it's crazy to me. Okay. But again, it proves my point that Trump had that in the back of his head, that he was just going to let it get out of jail free card. Hey, let them step over each other and let them show the rest of the world that this is who they are.
Well, I look at it a bit differently. And what I mean by that is that, okay, Iran understood the entire time that they have leverage. And the main leverage they have, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, is over that strait. And so when other vessels try to exercise moving around on the bottom part of the Strait of Hormuz near the other border, Iran said, no, these aren't on our terms. So under no circumstances was the Iranians going to allow other ships to pass through without having a say in it. And so because they didn't allow those other ships to pass through, then the United States decided to respond back. And so the violation from the Iranians' perspective is that they didn't go through them to get through the strait, because the Strait of Hormuz at the time of the MOU was still kind of nebulous. Either side didn't, but it was agreed upon that it was fine.
But in the MOU, it was free passage to the Strait of Hormuz. So they shouldn't have meddled at all. That was in that memorandum.
Okay. So, but again, they were still in the process of negotiation, because it was still based on ships going through, based on Iran's terms, not just the United States. And so
there wasn't any terms though with that. That wasn't it.
Well, it wasn't specified, but that's the whole point though, Chris.
I understand what you're saying.
So the whole point is that because things are not clearly written. Both sides get to decide how the words written on the MOU is interpreted. And so Iran said, look, in order for you to go through the Strait of Hormuz, you have to go through us. You have to do business with us. And so in order for that to happen, you got to come through our run. No,
but
it was
clear
not.
that there was no tolls and no tolls,
Was
free passage.
That's not what the MOU said. It was not clear.
It's
make sure why you're
doing that.
Yeah. So MOU 14 points.
We're both doing it at the same time. Let me ask you this while you're looking it up, because you're probably going to do it faster than me, Len. But even though that is what it is, and what you're saying is, what gives them the right to unilaterally say we're now going to oppose or insert our subjugation over the control of international waterways? When do they get to this? What gives them, or what allows them now to say, hey, we can control this international waterway now?
Good question.
What gives them the ability? And I know you're going to say, well, because Trump came back and opened that rabbit out of the hat, but I don't think I don't agree with that, because you're telling me on one hand, they're super smart, but on the other hand, they didn't see that in front of them. I think that this has been going on. This cat and mouse game has been going on for a long time. And go ahead.
Well, the reason why I had that facial expression is because the strait was open. Cargo ships were going through back and forth. You asked me the question, so I'm going to answer it. So because the strait was opened and United States and Israel decided to attack, once that happened, that changed the whole calculus of everything. And
But why did it change it? They just had this bright idea all of a
because
sudden?
Iran knew they needed a rationale to be able to control the Strait of Hormuz.
I understand that. That makes sense.
There was still a question in their mind, because remember, the United States has been the superpower, the global dominant superpower since the end of World War II. So you don't necessarily go and poke the bear just because, if you're not provoked. Now, what happened is Iran is a hornet's nest, and the United States and Israel decided to poke the hornet's nest. And so they said, okay, well, we may not be able to beat you, but we're going to sting you 1,000 times. You're going to think twice. And that's what happened. And so what gave them the right was getting bombed on preemptively. And so when that happened, that opened up everything. And for them, the terms of war is different, Chris. They fight on a different. For them,
no, I
for
get
some
that.
of them, it's a spiritual holy war.
It's a holy war.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand that.
So let's look at. I've got the 14 points.
Which, by the way, when you're saying that, while you're looking up those 14 points, which further, and you use the hornet's nest, which further illustrates why eventually this problem was going to have to be dealt with, whether we like it or not. Eventually, somehow, some way, there's going to be a conflict in that area of the world.
That was called the JCPOA, Chris. And
Len, that JCPOA was violated as soon as they started enriching uranium and kicked out the UN overseers.
Answer me this, Chris. As of today, which of the two approaches has been more effective?
Neither. They're both in the same boat.
You cannot objectively say
the
that.
Main objective
with the straight face. You can't objectively say that.
How?
Chris,
The main objective of the JCPOA was to not enrich uranium and produce nuclear weapons. They did that.
Okay.
And to allow UN inspectors to come in, they violated that. On day one, they violated it. Or maybe not day one, but they violated it by not allowing those independent UN inspectors to come in, and they enriched uranium, and they had a nuclear program.
But you're not, but that's a different issue altogether. I said, as of today, which approach has been more effective? I didn't say which approach has been 100% effective. I said, which one's been more effective?
Well, if you're asking about it, if you're asking which one has been more effective, obviously right now with Trump, because we're having a long-term solution play out in front of us.
No, brother, no. You cannot objectively say that.
How do you not see the long-term solution?
Okay, tell me what the long-term solution is and how that's working out right now.
We're making the Strait of Hormuz obsolete.
No,
that takes away Iran's only point.
That was never the initial intention.
I would be very surprised if there wasn't intel that they were lining and mining that strait for a very long time and just preparing for this.
Who? The Iranians or
Iran? Iran.
Okay, I'll give you that as a possibility. But here's the thing: They've been preparing for this war
They have
for
been preparing
years.
Exactly what I just said. So,
But okay,
they knew they were going to do this with the Strait.
But,
You're telling
but
me
I'm objectively conceding to that point, because my question was, of the two, which has been more effective? And you cannot tell me with
How so?
17, go talk to the 17 people whose child died in this war.
That's not fair. Hold on. All right. Since you brought it that way, let me tell you this, because I don't like war, and we all know nobody likes war, and Americans don't like war. By default, we don't. Since you went that way, though, Len, look, regardless of what you want to say, let's just completely strip it down to the bare bones. Okay? To the barest limbic animalistic lizard brain.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Instinctual. Let's bring it down to the instinctual level. They had it coming. Since the moment they opened their mouth, took over control of that country, and said death to America and Israel, they had it coming. Now, whether
Sticks
or
and
not
stones, man. Sticks and stones break bones. Words, bro. They're saying words.
Words are more. But Len,
they're saying words, Chris.
Words are more deadly, though. Words are more deadly.
Tell me how many people were killed from 1979 to the time the United States and
thousands of people that we'll never know
of the United States, people from the United States. Tell me how many people were killed by saying death to America. You can't take my question and apply to their own people. No, brother. Okay, come on, Chris. Come on, Chris. Be intellectually honest with this part, bro.
It is the second they said death to America and created death and war and whatever else you want to call it via their proxies, because they don't do it directly. Since that day, they had it coming to them. They did. And Len,
why is it for us to decide that, Chris? They didn't come and attack anybody in America. They did not attack people on American soil. They did not. They didn't do any of those things. They said death to America. Okay, that was a chant that they did. They didn't bomb the United States. They didn't terrorize the United States. They didn't do any assassinations to U.S. officials. They didn't do any of that.
How do you know that, though? How do you know? But
okay,
why did Obama feel inclined to do what he did then, in Syria and all that with the proxies in Iran? Why did Obama feel necessary to do that? Why has, since the beginning of time, every United States president, every United States leader, president or not, said we can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Why then? That's my question.
We all agree that it's not a good idea for them to have a nuclear weapon. We all agree on that. This whole conversation goes back to the initial question so far. Now, history may turn out to be in your favor. But what I'm saying is you cannot objectively say that between the JCPOA that Obama put in place and the war, or whatever you want to call this, that Trump allowed to happen, working with Netanyahu, kerfuffle. You can't say that it's been effective. You can't say it's been as effective. 17 people have died. Hundreds of people on their side have died as a direct cause of this, bro. So you were going to make a point about the reptilian brain. So what were you gonna say about that?
And I don't want to in any way seem non-empathetic or emotionally open or available, because I do. God bless. I sympathize heavily, because if I was in that situation, I would be a wreck as well myself. But you can't openly say it. You can't, like, if you're a military family, a Gold Star family, or you have a service member, or God forbid, I pray, or God help you, I pray for everybody who's lost someone in this conflict, in this war, whatever you want to call it. But when you sign up for that, you know that that outcome is a very strong possibility, whether through conflict or not. Look, more service members pass away, Len, just in training exercises than they do in active conflict. And that's a fact. We could look those numbers up. When we throw that around and go, look, all these people pass, what kills me is the civilians that are as a result of this. My point to the reptilian brain is this: once they opened their mouth and said that and did those things, it's on and cracking, dude. And then all the little pokes and all the little shadow games and proxy wars and all those things. If it's a war, it's a war. And if we look at the past and history of wars, this is what happens in wars. So we shouldn't.
So you're saying we've been at war with Iran since '79? We have not.
It's been a Cold War. It's been a Cold War.
No, it has not.
Yeah,
no, it has
Len,
not.
It's been a Cold War.
The United States has been in a Cold War with Russia. The United States has been in a kinetic war with Iran, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea. They've had some conflicts with the Iranians here and there, but it hasn't been a Cold War. And the other thing that I just want to wrap up my point about is that Iran has been
hijacked.
They've been a country that's been invaded all of these years, and they wanted to exercise their power to become a superpower in the Middle East again, because being, the Persians and having a great empire for thousands and thousands of years, then you had, Russia come in, then you had Britain come in. And then from their perspective, again, I'm not saying that I agree with them.
No, I know
from
that.
their perspective, they wanted to say, you know what, we want control over our own oil, because British came in. That's where British Petroleum started, the company BP, because
BP.
of Iran's oils.
Arco.
Right. So, Sunoco.
For all you Arco fans.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The United States and Iran have not been at war since 1979. Now, tensions have risen since then, but remember, they had Mossadegh that was democratically elected, and then the West started meddling with their affairs there again. And so all over, so if you look at it from the perspective of the Iranians, all of these outside actors have had a voice in how their economics played out, how their politics played out, and they didn't want any part of it. And so when this recent war just happened back in February, they said, you know what? We're done. We're not going to allow people to continue, and we're going to exercise the leverage on the Strait of Hormuz. And that's what they're doing. And because they can, and they will, and as long as the United States doesn't do what they want, they're going to continue to make the Strait of Hormuz an issue until, like we talked about 2 podcast episodes ago, is that people are finally going to start building around. But that's going to take 10 years at least.
It's going to take a year to 2 years, Len. I don't know why you think it's going to take so long.
Okay, I've been right most of the time along the way here, man.
I don't understand how you or why you think it's going to take a year to 2, or why you think it's going to take 10 years.
Because if the moment Iran starts to see Saudi Arabia digging a trench between them and the other strait on the other side of the Persian Gulf.
They're saying, please do it.
Iran is going to bomb them, and they're going to drone them to smithereens, bro. And they're going to do everything they can to stop the progress of that building.
And that's exactly why this is all lining up to be a long-term goal situation to make it irrelevant. Because when you start having other Middle Eastern nations build infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, to get around the harassment that is Iran, and then Iran starts bombing that or attacking that, it's game over for them at that point. That right there is the proverbial stake in the dagger to the vampire. Then at that point, if they do that,
I don't know why you think that, because you keep then it's underestimating them.
Because then you're at active war with your neighboring countries in that area, and you're telling me that they're going to be able to survive that?
They are right now, bro. Like the moment
they are right now because imagine if
United States and Israel bombed them, and that's why they attacked those other countries.
Len, imagine if we're talking a year from now, 2 years from now, and there is a NATO-like alliance, but it's in the Middle Eastern countries. Iran's cooked. They're cooked and they know it. And this is the last little dying piece of leverage that they have before they go kaput. And they know this. They know this, Len. They know it. They all know it because these are desperate acts. They're desperate.
Okay, let's make this last 2 minutes.
I
so
do
we
have
can
one,
move on to the next thing.
I do have one question for you though.
Please.
That I wanted to ask before we got to this.
Okay.
Because we talk about this and everybody's talking about this. And you mentioned the people of Iran. And it's funny because I don't know if it's propaganda or whatever, but did you hear about that leaked report or something that came out or got released or something? And it shows like 90% negative or 80 or some crazy number negative sentiment from the actual people in Iran that don't want this going on. And then they want the current leadership gone and they want to be back the way it was. Have you seen that
I have not seen or heard that, and I don't believe that. I don't believe the number's 90%.
You're saying that normal everyday Iranians like the current regime? Because the overwhelming data suggests the opposite, that the real Iranian people that have been under hijack since the late 70s, those people don't want this.
Okay, but here's the challenge. When you do a funeral and you show 5 caskets of your leaders and a little baby casket, it creates a visceral response. There were over 9 million people at that funeral. So they didn't force them to come out and
How do you know that though? How do you know that?
But how do you know that? How do you know the opposite? How do you know?
Because you do know that they have subjugation over their populace.
Dude,
like for example, they could turn your electricity off. They could turn your water off,
Chris.
If you don't go and parade for me.
So we're both making assumptions about the fact that
but a lot of what I'm saying is fact, is it not? Because we see this stuff happen in communists and dictatorships all the time.
The only thing that but that means that. Okay, if there were 9 million people, it's a country of 90 million, bro. So you're telling me that they just handpicked the 10% to come out and support the whole funeral procession?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Kamala Harris rallies were done the same way.
Dude,
we know those were fake.
Stop. Those are 2 different issues. You can't do that, Chris. So here's the thing, Chris. Here's the thing is that I don't believe for 1 second that 90% of the people are against the regime. I believe they're widely unpopular, but I wouldn't believe for 1 second because of the fact that when you look from their perspective, they've had invaders after invaders after invaders, and they want to
even
be
before
free,
that.
bro.
They were invaders too. Everybody was an
That's
invader.
what I'm saying. That's
history.
exactly what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is in Iran itself, so many different foreign actors have been there. And so I don't believe 90% of the people are against the current regime. Now, I could be wrong. If you find me some reliable research, I'll stand corrected. I'll be the first to admit it. I just don't believe that number. I believe that number is way too high.
Who knows? It came out. I'll have to
find the resource. In fact, we can post that once
we can find it.
I would love to see that because I don't believe that number, by the way. So
I thought I'd ask you about it because when I seen it, I went, I got to ask Len about this because it seems like it's way, way, way crazy. And who knows? Maybe it is right. Maybe it isn't. But I can say that with confidence that the majority of that country does not like where it's at.
Now, I would go with the majority, but that majority is 51%. Now, I could go with that, bro.
51?
I'm not, no. Okay, let me be clear. I'm not saying that 51% are against them. What I'm saying is that a majority constitutes 51%. So I think the number is closer to 51% than it is to 90. If you were to ask me to ballpark it, I think it's 60-40. I think 60 is against, 40 is for.
I think you could maybe be, I can get behind the 60-40 simply because if you asked 10, 20 years ago, I think it'd be more towards 90.
Perhaps. So, and it's interesting because this war has been going on for so long and that, after 60 days, Congress is supposed to have a say in what happens. And, is it where they start the kinetic fighting and then they stop and they make it a ceasefire that the 60 days start over? Is that how that works? Because
I'm not sure how that works.
I think there's a formula there.
I was going to ask you, how does that work? Because how do we get to restart? And you know what's crazy is we're bombing the crap out of them and it doesn't even make headlines anymore. This is how absurd. This is how absurd this is.
Absolutely.
This is how absurd this is.
I agree.
And then I can't help but think about it. I'm going, who's being freaking propped up right now? And that's where my other side of me just goes crazy. And I go, dude, can we get the frick out of this crazy place right now and just let them kill each other over there?
Well, I'm not all for them killing each other, but I definitely agree with you that they need to get
but that's
out
what they
of there.
do. That's what they do.
Well,
they do.
But what's happening right now is most of the death over there right now objectively is being caused by the bombing and the degradation of their infrastructure. And so I just want to get out,
but you didn't have to attack the ships.
Because even, bro, but it's like, if I flick you on the arm and then you shoot me in the face, bro, like that's asymmetrical. Like the response is way out of whack, bro.
Right, but if you flick me and then I don't do anything about it, then you're gonna tap me, and then if I don't do anything about the tap, then you're gonna lightly hit me, and
you don't know that though. You just assume. So anyway, man, let's.
But wait a minute, hold on. How do you? We won't talk about Iran, but how do you not know this? Because Len, that's history. That's human history. We've seen that throughout human history. As soon as somebody takes a little bit and they can get away with it, they're going to take more and 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 more. That's why we have Joseph Stalin and Chairman Mao and Adolf Hitler.
Well, then
and Alexander the Great and Marcus Aurelius.
So let's flip it. Let's flip it and say, okay, as soon as one ship is able to go through, two ships go. And as soon as two ships goes, then 4 and then 8 and then 16 and then 32 and 64.
It's an international waterway. What's wrong with that? It's an international waterway.
But according to the MOU, it says on the MOU, and we'll move on from here, the Strait of Hormuz, Iran will use its best efforts to allow the safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz without transit changes for 60 days. Now, potential translation, this is just Len Cooper talking. When they say
I track with you.
Their best efforts to allow the safe passage, they may say, look, if you're going down there towards Oman, we put some little pew-pews over there under the water, and you might not make it through. So you should come through us. So I'm just saying that could be an interpretation.
Len, enjoyed our afternoon. We'll see you next Monday. Until then, if you like the content, like and subscribe. We always welcome new additions to our group here, and if you have feel compelled to comment, we'd love to hear from you as well, and maybe return some banter with you. Len,
sounds good. Well, hey, looking forward to next time, Chris. It's always great to have conversations with you. Until next week, my friend, take care, be safe.
Adios.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.